The climate crisis. It's the greatest threat to the global economy, and it's therefore also Canadian economy. And in two ways, it's a threat. One is that with Mr. Harper's current preoccupation with only developing the oil sands as a focus of government policy, and I'm not exaggerating. I mean, we've dropped the support that we used to have to try to encourage renewable energy. We're not putting our efforts into efficiency, conservation. We are doing a lot less than we used to do to make sure that we had an export industry in the forest products manufacturing. So we're increasingly focusing, as if it's a panacea, on oil sands only. Now, that the climate crisis, of course, is real and growing. And internationally, the pressures are, they're so large that one accepts, if you're looking at the numbers, that we're going to have a global carbon price before too long, which will impose a threat to any country that's decided fossil fuels are its future. There will be an economic impact to that as it becomes limiting by global decisions. We recently had Thomas Homer Dixon, who wrote The Ingenuity Gap and The Upside of Down, gave a lecture in my riding and brought very compelling, more than I have time to go into now, evidence of exactly how likely it is that carbon investments are going to become bad investments economically, as well as what they do to the environment. The environmental threat of the climate crisis is also an economic threat. So sectors of the Canadian economy that are hugely vulnerable to climate crisis are, of course, anything to do with natural resources, fisheries, forests, and agriculture. The threat of large-scale drought, of the central bread baskets of Canada and the US becoming deserts, is real. So if we don't act to reduce greenhouse gases, we have that impact on our economic production. We also have an economic impact from the increasing number of billion-dollar-plus extreme weather events that affect our ability to be insured. So an event like the Calgary flood is, yes, a human tragedy, the High River flood, but it's also a big strain on government revenues for rebuilding. It's a strain on the private sector. It's a strain on the insurance industry. And the Toronto deluges that we've seen in recent years are related to climate change. Finch Avenue collapsing from an afternoon rainstorm. I mean, that's multiple $1 million worth of infrastructure damage from a single event. So that's also the biggest economic threat facing Canada is that we ignore the climate crisis, fail to prepare for those impacts that we can't avoid, and fail to take the protective action that's required of every country to reduce the scale of the damage to our own economy, to our children's future, by failing to reduce greenhouse gases rapidly. And also, of course, there's a plus side to the economy when we do that, because there are many new jobs to be created in a green economy. There's a lot of potential in clean technology, and we're letting it pass us by.